Hey, so in today's lesson, we are talking about grammar and we are answering the question to learn grammar or not to learn grammar. So as an adult English language learner, you have probably heard a lot of mixed information. Maybe you have heard that you should learn grammar naturally, that you should not learn grammar at all, that grammar is important, that grammar is not important. There's lots of mixed opinions and mixed information. So today we are going to talk about how important grammar really is and whether or not you should study grammar as an adult English language learner. So let's get started. So, should you or should you not be learning English grammar as an adult learner? This is the question. And the short answer to this is it depends. Now, I know that some people don't like this answer, don't want to hear it depends. However, the reality really is it depends on your situation. So your situation will determine whether or not you should be studying grammar and just how important grammar is, all right? So in today's lesson, I am going to be helping you to understand how you can decide for yourself if grammar is important or if it's not important. And I want to remind you that I am a qualified English language teacher and I have been teaching English specifically to adult learners for over 10 years all around the world. And there have been times when grammar has been more important to some of my students, and there have been times when grammar has been less important. So sometimes I teach grammar, sometimes I don't. It really does depend on my students, all right? And there are three things that I consider when I'm deciding whether or not I should teach this student grammar. So these three things will help you to decide for yourself, okay? The first thing that you need to understand is that there are different parts or different components of the English language, of learning English, and grammar is one of these things, okay? This is the first thing we're going to be talking about. The second thing that you need to understand is why you are actually learning English. What is your goal? What is the point? What is the purpose of you learning English? And the third thing that you need to understand and think about is your current English level, okay? So these three things are what I use to decide if grammar is important or not for my individual students. And you can use the same three things to decide if grammar is important or not for you. First, let's talk about the different parts or pieces or components of English. So you have your skills. You have listening, reading, writing, speaking. You also have vocabulary, fluency, pronunciation, and of course you have grammar. So if your goal is to communicate in English clearly and confidently, which is a goal for many people, the whole point that you're probably learning English is to communicate in English for some reason, all right? So if your goal is to communicate clearly and confidently, of course you need a good level in all of these areas. You need strong speaking skills, strong reading skills, strong writing skills, strong grammar skills. You need all of the pieces or all of the parts to be good in order for your communication to be good overall, okay? So let's just look at this example in a little more detail. Think about your physical body or your physical health, okay? Imagine that you say, I want to improve my health. I want to improve my physical health. In order to do this, you need a balance, okay? You need to exercise all the parts of your body. You need to eat well, you need to be consistent, you need a balance. If you say, I want to improve my health, and you only exercise one part of your body and you don't eat well, of course your health is not really going to improve. And English is exactly the same thing. So if your goal is to improve your overall English skills, your overall communication skills, you cannot ignore parts of English. You have to improve all of the skills, okay? But the problem comes when you only work on one area, okay? So again, let's imagine the body. Let's think about the body. If I just exercise my legs, okay? My legs are gonna be in good shape, but the rest of my body, not so much, okay? So the same goes with English. If you just practice grammar, you are gonna have a great level of grammar, a very high level of grammar, but you might not be able to have a simple conversation. And I have had many students who have been in this situation. So I have taught many students who have excellent grammar, perfect grammar. On paper, they can do a grammar test, they can write very well, but they could not have a simple conversation, okay? And on the opposite end, I have had students who have terrible grammar, but they can carry a confident, fluent conversation. So generally speaking, it's better to have kind of a balance of these two things. You don't want to be one extreme or the other extreme. You want to kind of be somewhere in the middle, again, for most people. So just think about that there are different parts of English. Grammar is one of them. And if you want to improve your overall English, then of course, grammar is important, but it's not the only thing that is important. Okay, so now you understand that there are different parts involved in learning English, and all of them are important if you want to improve your overall English. The second point that you need to think about and really understand is why you are learning English. Now, this is a question that I have asked every one of my students that I've ever had. I always ask them, why are you learning English? And sometimes people say, I want to improve my English. But learning English and improving your English are the same thing. So this is not a reason, okay? I want to improve my English. That's great, but that's not a reason for learning English. So what is your reason for learning English? Why are you learning English? What is your goal? For example, are you learning English because you need to pass an exam like the IELTS or TOEFL exam? Are you learning English because you want to get a job and you need to improve your business English skills? Are you learning English because you want to immigrate to an English-speaking country? Are you learning English to boost your confidence? Are you learning English to travel or to socialize or communicate with other people? Are you just learning English as a hobby? And the reason that I'm asking you to really think about this is because for some purposes or some situations, grammar will be more important. And for some purposes or for some reasons, grammar will be a little bit less important, okay? So in the first point, we talked about having a balance and working on different skills, but sometimes some skills will be more important than others depending on your reason for learning English. So for example, if you are learning English because you need to pass an exam, or you want to go to university or take a college program or a training program for an academic reason or an academic purpose, in these cases, grammar will be more important for you. So if you are going to university, you're not going to necessarily have a grammar class, okay? If you take the IELTS exam, you don't get a grammar mark. However, grammar is integrated, it's part of the test. So there is a mark inside of the test for grammar. It's not a separate mark, but it's part of the test, okay? If you are going to university or to college, you will have to write essays, write papers, write reports, give presentations, and grammar, good grammar, correct grammar, is part of all of these things, all right? So even though you might not have to take a separate class for grammar or get a separate mark for grammar, grammar is a big part of academic English. So if your goal is something academic, of course, grammar is going to be more important for you in that case, okay? As well, if you want to improve your English for professional reasons, if you want to get a job, you will most likely have to write emails, make phone calls, give presentations, depending on the job. And you want to make sure that your grammar is polished. Your grammar is, for the most part, correct, especially in written communication, okay? So if I receive a professional email with a lot of grammar mistakes from a colleague, it looks a little bit unprofessional to me. It looks like they haven't taken the time to read through it and correct it. Okay, so I don't want you to misunderstand this. It's okay to make grammar mistakes. It's not the end of the world. Absolutely not the end of the world. Okay, it also depends on your job and so on. But grammar mistakes at work are less important when you are speaking, as long as your message is clear. Okay, grammar mistakes in your written work, in your emails, reports, any written documents are less professional because you have the time to correct them. Okay, so grammar is going to be more important, again, for those of you who are studying in English or who are working in English. Your grammar will matter more in this case. And if you are learning English for social reasons or as a hobby or to travel, in these situations, grammar is going to be a little bit less important, because what's important is just that people understand you and you can communicate your message, okay? So depending on your goal or your personal reason for learning English, grammar will again be less important or more important. So it's very crucial that you actually think about the reason why you are learning English in the first place. And this will determine whether you need to learn grammar or whether you don't need to learn grammar, okay? Okay, so the third point that you need to understand and think about when you are deciding if you need English grammar, if you don't need English grammar, is your current English level. What is your current level of English? So first of all, how do you know? And second of all, why is it important? Why does it even matter? Okay. First of all, how do you know? If you have already taken an English class, or you have done an assessment, or you have taken an exam like IELTS or TOEFL, then you probably know what your English level is. If you have no idea at all, you've never taken a class, you've never had a teacher, you've never done a test, that is okay. You can at least get an idea of what your English level is by doing an assessment online. There are lots of free English assessments to check your level. Just go on Google and search for free English level test, okay? Or check my level of English, and you will get lots of options of assessments and tests that you can do to at least have a general idea of what level of English you are, okay? So that's the first thing you need to do. Of course, you can get a teacher as well, but if that's not an option for you, just try a free assessment online to check your level of English. One thing to keep in mind is that some assessments or some level tests are only checking certain things. So some tests are just testing vocabulary. Some tests are only checking your grammar level, and so on and so on. So just make sure that you read and see what kind of test you're doing. As well, I recommend doing a few of these free assessments so that you can have a more accurate idea. If you do 3 or 4 tests and they all say that you're intermediate, then you're probably intermediate, okay? So just try a few of these free assessments, and this is where you can start off. So check your level of English, do a few of the assessments, and then get an idea of where you are starting. Now, why is this important? Why does it matter? Because at different levels, you learn different grammar points. So myself as a teacher, I have taught English learners who are absolute beginners, who don't know a single word of English, all the way to advanced students, to business English students. I've taught IELTS exam preparation, and I always adjust what grammar points I teach and how much grammar I teach depending on the level of my students and the needs of my students, okay? So if you are a beginner level, you are not going to be learning the same grammar as an advanced student, all right? So this is important for you to keep in mind. So of course, if you're studying with a teacher, the teacher will know what grammar you should be learning. However, if you are studying on your own or if you are studying online, it's your responsibility to make sure that you are learning the right grammar for your level, because otherwise you're wasting your time, okay? So make sure that you know what your level is and that you're aware that there is different grammar to be learned at different levels and different stages. So as you can see, there are lots of different points and lots of different things that you need to think about when you're deciding if you need English grammar, if you don't need English grammar, if you want to study it, if you don't want to study it. Hopefully you can see that it really does depend. And if you are an adult English learner and you have been studying English online or following teachers online, you may have seen some teachers who teach a lot of grammar, some teachers who teach a little grammar, some teachers who are against grammar altogether, and that is totally okay. Today, what I am trying to really get you to think about is your personal situation and to make a decision that is best for you. Again, you are an adult learner. Learning anything or not learning anything at the end of the day really is up to you. When you were a kid in school, of course, your teacher told you, study this, do this, we have a test tomorrow, and you had to listen to your teacher and do everything that your teacher told you to do, right? But now, if you are an adult and you are choosing to learn English, that in itself, at the end of the day, is your choice, okay? So what you really need to consider is your reason for learning English, and that will determine how important grammar is or how much focus you should put onto grammar. So again, I want to remind you that, of course, grammar is part of a language, and if your goal is to become completely proficient in English, to become an expert in English, then grammar is important. If your goal is only to speak and to have conversations, then grammar is less important. It really depends on what your goal is, okay? So no one can tell you that you need to study grammar or you don't need to study grammar. You need to look at English as a language. You need to look at yourself and your goal, and then you can make a decision about how much focus and time you need to put in to learning grammar, or whether it's not important at all. So this really does depend on you. So I hope that this lesson has been helpful in helping you to decide if you should study English grammar or if you don't really need to study English grammar. And if you have decided that grammar is important for you, the next lesson that I will be teaching is how to actually learn, remember, and use grammar, okay? So the very first step that we talked about today is deciding if you even need English grammar. And next, we're going to be talking about how to actually learn English grammar the right way so that you can remember it and use it in your real conversations. So, as always, thank you guys so very much for watching and for learning with me. And I am really curious to hear your thoughts on this topic. Do you think grammar is important? Do you not think it's important? Please let me know in the comments down below. I'm curious to hear from English learners and from English teachers. It's a really interesting topic to think about. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next one.